Gottshall. Wow, go all the way back. It's great to see everyone out on this beautiful evening. It's a real honor to be reading it with my colleague and to see so many friends and students out on this beautiful night with this annual moon rising and feeling like I love this time of year because the sun actually has some warmth to it. You know, after all of the sun doesn't feel just like a distant star anymore. It's actually got some restorative powers. So I thought, and I really want to thank New England Review for asking me to read, and I love this series. I'm just so pleased to be here, and I want to thank you for what you've done with this series, sort of supporting the Vermont writing community, and thanks to Carol's for hosting this. I thought I would start with a couple of poems that were actually published in New England Review quite a while ago now, but this was sort of one of my first big breaks. Like, it felt really good to have these poems accepted by NER back when acceptances were rare. Well, they're still rare, but especially rare. I'll start with these. I haven't read these in a while. This is called The Revenant. The shore road hems 1,000 acres of orchards, honey stands, and curio shops quaint as cross-stitch, and curves past the house where my grandmother was born, its tumble of roses, sturdy square columns, shattered dormers. At the headland, Lake Ontario mulls its secrets, the millennial grit minerals cast up as smooth black stones, steel gray the breakers. A resident ghost haunts the lighthouse grounds, a widow forever, regarding her inheritance of loss, the shifting waters, a myth built on phosphoric night sightings and sobbing winds, the tired, insistent percussion of this promontory. I will admit I believe in her, a spirit culled from the interplay of human grief and weather. Standing dizzy and shivering at the pierhead's tip, I won't say this place remembers me, nor that I've been here before, even in dreams. But I know the specter's ancestral lace, this ornate veiling of freshwater foam. I understand her dormancies and nocturnal visitations. I recognize the pitch and plungings, the keening treble of her cry. Is my volume okay?
No.
No, you can't hear me?
I don't think you're in the mic.
Is that better? Okay. Okay. So this poem's called Weather, W-H-E-T-H-E-R. Aligned with the mechanism whereby the spirit is borne aloft through song, comes again the question, whether. And not soothed so much as opened by the boy soprano's sanctus, what moves in the mind as the throat constricts in sympathy, one note peeled from the last, fine as paper slipped from a garlic bulb, veined, translucent, is weather. As if wound through the spiraling amplitude, purpled, fretted, one voice suspended in concentration of prayer or terror, wills itself above faltering. More perfect, since time must soon break it, and made it. Whether and by whatever impossible arrangement of stars, harmonies, correspondences through which the music finds the spirit, and like a blade slits and releases, circulates the question through the phrase, the delicate engine, as if it matters, the song rises, everything goes with it. Is that better, volume-wise? Okay. So I'm gonna turn to poems from my new book, which is so new that it is barely even solid. Like, I keep expecting my hand to just kind of slip through it. So this is called Lesson. At some location between the rod and the hook, which shot its filament through the locust-sung summer air, sun-blistered and clover-hung, at the flick of her cousin's right wrist until it reached the soft crease of her inner elbow, where it snagged and he laughed, she cried out, that tender purchase of dart in flesh, allowing him to reel her bleeding back along a taut line of animal pain she couldn't unfasten from. At some point along that axis, humming casual violence and his boy heat and her blood just beginning to bubble under the barb, a false idea she had about this world and her position in it was corrected. The tiger. Childhood was years of swallowing schoolroom clocks like big aspirin tablets. Matching up blue socks hot from the dryer. I was sometimes worried God could see me when I stepped into the tub, sometimes worried he couldn't. I learned the moon is a monastic, exiled from the commerce of earth. Our shirts were made of softest star juice. In the 100 years I was 9, I solved 10,000 math problems, but no one asked me what I loved, so I just unbuckled my shoes each night, alone with it. Places in the tall grass where the deer had lain, a bird flying up when you didn't know it was there. I sat on the bench outside the stained glass of the First Universalist, pretending I was inside. Tried to pray for less shyness, what the old people called making strange. Wide open, staring eyes of the tiger I drew and had to destroy because it wouldn't sleep. Circus. I was drawn as though to blood rites, stripes rising up over heat ripples, smell of hay, and inside all those delicate wires for the body to harness and balance on. In my seat, I picked a blister on my palm until it popped, a spent purse. My eyes stung from gunpowder, horse piss. So this is the state of childhood, I thought, as my father tied a balloon string around my wrist. Sticky sugar on my jeans, smell of sweat and the ringmaster with a full day's beard. I was simply too old and too sad, first cramps circling in me like rusty wheels, but I'll say this, I couldn't look away from those wire walkers, poised over emptiness with bored faces, nor fire eaters, nor the woman who contorted on a silk skein, slipping so fluidly through her own knots. This poem stars Buster Keaton. People know who Buster Keaton is. Okay. It's called Blink Once. At 15, I was what's called bookish. I had a recurring dream of an owl lecturing on the surrealists, and I always woke from it happy. I spent that entire summer running the projector in the library basement, silent movies for the kids on vacation, cold coffee and fritters on a table for the grown-ups. The films were fragile and old, and everyone laughed when Buster Keaton fell in love. I had the whole day to think, and my thoughts all felt sculpted. I worked that hard on each one, chiseled and rasped. I spent evenings reading in my room, listening to thunder. Sometimes a firefly would stray through the broken screen, and I'd wake in the night to its beacon, its clumsy flight. I'd say, "Oh, Buster Keaton, I'm still too young, and our love is forbidden. Your body's a lamp, and I'm a boat far out at sea. Can you wait for me, my moonbeam, my daffodil? Blink once, if you will." So I see at least one of my current students here, which is great. I I inflicted the sonnet upon my students this month. I had them all write sonnets. So there's actually 4 sonnets in this book, so I want to prove that I don't just dish it out. These are all, they're called Tucilia. Each of them is called Tucilia, and they're numbered. So I'm just going to read 2 of them. Tucilia, 1. We're flat on our backs, reading The Tempest. Autumn light fills your room. Wood smoke smell drifts in through the open window. Your dog shifts and sighs. We pity Caliban. The test is tomorrow. We're both Miranda, sequestered in stifling adolescence. You sift through your closet, its fragile loot of thrift store finds and antiques. To study, we'll dress in airy scarves and cowboy boots, pretend we're Ariel, recite the lines, such stuff as dreams are made on. Behold the faux-pearled maidens, exiled to the bustling earth's end, eating peanut butter and marshmallow fluff. You laugh, kiss my sunburnt hand, brave new world. 2. When rain rattled the walnut tree, we lit candles and set up the Ouija board to contact your cousin Beth. She'd transmit lines of pop songs, gossip, sow quick discord between realms. A depressive spirit, she wasn't one to answer the big questions. When queried on the afterlife, she'd plead the fifth, ask about the current fashions. Heaven seemed immeasurably distant and not all that interesting. Mystery was conversation, sex, the strange present tense, how particular, how unlikely. We put away the heart planchette. We said it seemed weirder to be alive than dead. This is not a sonnet. None of the rest of these are sonnets. Eve. All I had was the doe's rib bone, found by the lake beside the shards of vertebrae seeding themselves in the mud, but I talked to her like she was whole, could hear. I was 17, it was a way I had of praying, I think, because I'd read the story of Eve and knew I would make the same choice. Already knew how it felt to choose wrongly, just to see how far regret would take me. It was light as a breath. I kept it on the windowsill with candles and snail shells. I'm sure there's a better religion for my troubles, but it's what I had, and her rib was fragile as a child's. Her afterlife was everywhere. There was nothing that didn't contain it. I told her that again and again, while darkness whiskered at the house and the curtains filled with wind. And when I finally thought I understood, I dropped it into the lake, into the mineral solution that accepts whatever is offered. This poem is a confession of sorts, and it's been really interesting to hear people's takes on what the confession is. It's called Why I Did It. Because dusk had a habit of falling before I'd finished putting on my mascara. Because you can't read by the light of an onion, and I'd never seen my name written in calligraphy. Because I was so lonely, I talked to the radiators. Because home was a series of broken Mr. Coffees, and the cotton hems of my nightgowns had all frayed. Because once there was a fair maiden who rode the bus to her job at the supermarket. Because of the canned peaches and the fire, because I've never held a full pitcher without my wrist shaking, never broken a bone. Because a loose thread came teasing its way from the sleeve of my blouse and I couldn't stop pulling. Because I was thusly unsleeved. Because there was once a goose girl who was only a goose girl. Because someone's sister turned a corner and died. Because someone else's sister never called. Because I was unconvinced by commercials asserting my inalienable right to loveliness, beauty like smooth milk. Because the snow came early that year and I lay in my bed at dawn worrying about every single word I'd ever said. Because I said no, said yes. Because the sky was a vintage film strip reel and the concrete smelled like driving too slowly, like the fear of death. Because the only ticket I could afford was to a city where no one knew me and I never wanted to go. Because I was pretty sure I'd eventually go there anyway. Yellow House poem. Leave unexcavated from the narrow strip of garden the matchbox cars, the Lego astronauts, the fingers of dolls. Unlistened to the zing of unplugged telephone static and no red windbreakers snag in the trees. Unpried the floorboards between whose sloping joints are collected nickels, stuck as though through a jukebox slot to needle the house's hits or release cool sugar. There's a memory in the basement, unpretty, 7-ish. She burns her clothes each evening in the furnace and is unreachable through Ouija. There's another in the master bedroom, pregnant wisp holding her belly. Leave undug the backyard, the base of the utility pole, standing like a priest with a direct connection to the forces of electricity, tirades, and greenish skies. Leave unglassed the windows where rain leaks in and streaks the walls with exhaust. There is no creak in the stairs. The teeth of vacant winters have gnawed the burrows of historic mice, and slivers in the kitchen collect unswept. Meter readers do not visit this street. No fat letters are dropped in the mail slot. No owl nests in the garage's dry rafters. No wisdom, no midnight who. There are no children here to soothe. There's 2 more. Departure. Put my ashes in a cookie tin from Canada. My epitaph, her life was a series of stubbed toes and tiger cats, the wind fooling around under her skirt. Moments I was proud to be human, like seeing a hopscotch course a full block long. Before I go, I will have to gather my patience. I left it in the fallout shelter of my grade school during a drill, adding up the civil defense rations. I could never make the totals come out right. There was not enough Kotex for us all to reach adolescence in the event of nuclear winter. The part of my brain still occupied with a stranger's unkindness at the Museum of Wicker will wink out, crying between street lamps, my own name. Many mornings I've waited a long time for coffee, queued up with a dozen fidgeting commuters, all their nervous little phones, thinking, I need this, I need this. I think of the rapture when I pull up my socks. I surprise myself sometimes by stepping out of line and slipping away. And I'll finish with a poem. So I also had my students this week write curses and lullabies. The same day we wrote curses and lullabies, and we talked about how, and this has always fascinated me, in lullabies, no matter how soothing it is, there's always something a little bit scary. There's always like something a little bit threatening in a lullaby. So this poem's called Lullaby. Sleep, my losses, my darlings, the wind snags sticky in the trees. Shiver the old bed under, the armoire to dust and the bats in their habits. Sleep the body's broken boatyards, its cravings, its costume. Dawn is a pale dog pacing. Sleep my clappers, my spaniels, my chalice, my mouth, my battered losses, harrowed and fevered. Sleep the soft, shallow hallow, the blister, the interstate, thunder and satellite, sparrow, my losses, the brain socket, syringe and sex and the umber. The moon is a shardsome sailor, the sea is a blithesome rider. Sleep losses, sleep, grief and plunder, the blooms and the babes and the ponies and pipes. Certificates, sugar and all my losses. Sleep spider and sieve and passion and bristle, harvest and fallow and femur and fire. Sleep empty, my losses, loosen and slumber.